Alright, here we are. We're back on the black truck. It's a couple of days before Christmas, and it happens to be a nice day, or it was nicer, very windy. So, what's my next plan for this old truck? And as you can see here, I'm doing some work. And here we've got rust and yuck. There's a number of issues. So, I've done most everything else. You know, the rear is in. We've got some nasty rust up in there. I cleaned this off, pressure washed it off. I took the front end parts out. It needed a pitman arm. This is, you know, pitman arm's a pain in the ass. You got to take the whole steering box out, and that's because the guy did not lubricate his parts. And so I took off most of the parts from the Red Blazer, the parts truck. And believe it or not, I don't really like doing this. Typically, I'll go and buy all new parts, but I have a little bit more time than I have money. Money is very finite for me. So these are the parts that I found that were the best from the Red Blazer because I took care of that. And this I'll show you later. This is an idler arm that came off of the black truck, but I think it's adjustable. But anyway, on the right is my idler arm from the red truck. So I just wanted to clean the two of them. I think it's better. And notice I'm cleaning in a big wide black mortar tub on top of a stainless steel door that I use for welding, which is laid on top of a garbage pail. Actually, it looks really good. Why? Well, because that's the way I used to always do things. Before I had, you know, parts washers like that one over there, which is nice to have, and I do use it for certain things. You know, a lot of times the parts washers, the pumps die, but anyway, I do have it. And here's the one. Here's the end links that and tie rods that came off the black truck, and they're really rusty and nasty. Although I think some of them might be good. We'll test that later. So why do I do it? And it's because I've always worked that way when I was younger, and I didn't have a lot of stuff to clean with. So, you know, kerosene, gasoline, mixtures, paint thinners, stuff you throw in a bucket you don't want to get rid of. They happen to make really good degreasers. Especially for shit like this, okay? For really nasties. So, I had to cut the shock out with the torch, because I don't know what the hell. Again, the rust, and whoever assembled it, put it together, maybe it was original, I don't know. But nobody uses lube. I like to use lube. Well, sometimes I like to force it. Anyway, there's the VW. So, still some more work to do. I'll be back in a little bit. And just a peek outside, you know, boy, it's a nice day. I have the hose. I'm going to rinse those off with water, soapy water. What's that out there? More stuff being cleaned. Rotors came out of the acid bath. There's the old cesspool to the house. It's not being used anymore. So I found one of those picnic tables with the steel top with all the holes in it. You know the type they use on grates and everything. Works fucking great. You know, you hose everything down. All the slop goes there, stays in one spot, and you're good to go. And it's nice out. And maybe not the most environmentally friendly, but I try to keep it to a minimum. Alright, so I'm going to kind of wander around the shop, clean up a little bit from yesterday's extravaganza on the VW job. It's looking pretty good. I ground a lot of stuff. It got really dirty in here, and I'm really tired. So, I'm going to go clean that stuff, and I'll be back with another episode. We'll see how far we can get today, and then I'm going to chill out. Okay, just want to follow up. I want to see if you can see this. This is Yukon gear. They say it's assembled in the USA. I don't know where they make it, but I spoke with the guy on the phone. This is an AK-1563. They have another part number here, the 10004. Axle bearing and seal kit, 2.250 outside diameter. Very important. And made by Yukon. And I did speak with them. I finally got through to them. You know, actually getting to talk to somebody on the phone. And I verified the axle housing and everything, because this is like the 7-point whatever Duja rear. That these aren't the big rears, you know. It's a 10 bolt, but it's that small one. So it's important because the housings are different, and I got the wrong gears, the wrong parts originally, and everything is different. You know, I'm a Chevy guy, but I haven't played with everything, and mostly the older stuff, the better stuff. But this is, you know, this is okay. It's sized appropriately. Anyway, so the bearing is in, and putting the seal in is actually much easier. I mean, I used the drips in 2 different socket sizes. A bigger one here, which I used 1 3/4 inches, which guides it in a lot tighter. And then I finished up, because there's a lip for the seal, 1 5/8 inches. And then the seal, you just drive in with the rubber mallet. And you could use the hotter side, the hard side. It's a little hot when you hit it. You don't want to disform the seal, but you don't need any special tools for this application. If you have one of those nice flat seal drivers, great. But if you're careful, you don't need it. So as long as you have something soft or softer, if you're going to be using a metal hammer, you're going to dent it and screw it up. So all that's together, and we're going to move over to the other side, clean that up, and drive everything in there. And then I got to find the bolts to bolt on the disc brake housings, assemblies, and then I can drive the axles in. So we have a bunch of axles over here. I have to go through them. I just kind of cleaned them up and painted the hubs. I got to measure them, see which ones are the least damaged for now. Probably going to want to get some new axles at some point, but we're going to throw these in. So those can go in after I bolt on the disc brake stuff. So we're getting close. All right, we'll be back. Let's see if I can get a good shot of this. Alright, so there's some wear here on this one, and just to clean them up a little bit, I used a little bit of this crocus cloth. You can use some Scotch-Brite too to finish up if you want, but this, just to get any of the burrs, there is some significant wear. I'm going to look over at this one here. I believe of the 2 vehicles that I have, the 98 is the one that yields some of the good parts because it has less mileage. The 96 yields a lot of the good parts because it didn't rust out as much, but you can see, I don't know if I can zoom in on that, this one's pretty gnarly, very different wear pattern. It's very wide, can really catch it with the nail. You can see the indentation in the light, and I don't know if this one is much better, but in these kinds of rears, axles are sacrificial. This one's not that good either. So in these kinds of rears, this is like almost 300,000 miles. That's about half. So these will probably get tossed. I don't really know what you do other than get other axles. I wouldn't really recommend too much other than just get new axles if you really want to hold on to a rear like this. But considering the costs involved and everything, I think this is what we're going to go with right now. I'm going to stick these axles in, lube them up, put a little lubricant on them, and I'm going to shove them in right now. So that's the next step. I'm going to lube the bearings and seal a little bit by putting lubricant in them. Come over here, lube this up a little bit, shove it in, and call it a day. We're on the bench here. And so back to the black truck. And so this is what it looks like, what the backing plates look like cleaned up. And what I did was, to get the bleeder valves out and to get these sort of going and restored, is I dumped these, took them all apart, cleaned them off, and to get the bleeder valves out, I dumped it in acid in a Chinese food quart container for muriatic acid, and fairly light. And it did, all the rust came off, and by the time I went to take out the bleeder valve, it just basically spun right out with a 1/4 inch drive. So that's exactly what you're looking for. Now these are okay. You know, they're not great. I know one of these boots kind of got a little screwed up, so there's that issue. But I'm not too worried about it right now. I want to get everything going. They should work. If I have a problem with it, by that point, if I have a problem with this, then I'll get some of these wheel cylinders, I'll get a set. Because by then, I'll have everything back on again. You know, I'll have the brakes on both sides, I'll have the axles in, the plates mounted, I'll have the lubricant back in. So anyway, so we're going to just let's carry this with me here. This is going, you can see what a nice job. And coming back over to the truck, here's where I screwed up. I don't know if you can see this, but the difference between the rears is this back space. right here. This goes back further, right, to allow for the drum. So I don't want to get into the rear right now. So I had everything set up for disc brakes, and everything has been restored, or new parts. So I'm going to put this on the shelf for now, replace the cables. I got the cables out of the red truck, and we're going to go with the disc, put the disc brake aside. We're going to go with the drum brakes. Hopefully I can get all this working. That way, all this is back together, and if things go well with this truck and my finances in the future, I'll buy another rear, the proper rear. I'll go over it. I'll put new bearings in and all of that stuff. And at that point, the truck will be a lot further along, and it's really just a weekend to jack this thing up, pop a rear. You know, at that point, it's so much easier because everything is clean. I've got lubricant on everything. I've got anti-seize. It'll spin right off. It's just a lot of steps, and then I'll put it back together again. So that's where we're at here. We're doing the backing plates right now. So I'm going to climb down here and get back to work. Not feeling too good today, so I'm a little tired. But it's back to work on this project, and hopefully I can get a little further. So it's a slow crawl. All right, I'm gonna get back at it. All right, I just want to get a little video of. Now this is the black truck, and this is the cable arrangement here. Okay, that's how it's set up right now. All right, so this cable here, the one that comes to the adjuster, going through the bottom hole, comes over to here, up and over, down and all the way over to the passenger side. Up there, not through the grommets, but up and over to the passenger side. The one that you see coming through the grommets is the one on the driver's side, and that comes back to this point. Now, I thought there was a spring on here. Maybe not. Anyway. Alright, so let's get started on taking this apart now. I'm going to have to put acid on it. We'll see. I'm going to cook it first. Alright, we're back with BackYard Productions over here, and we're back to the black truck today. Again, this is a nice little backyard project, and I'm just going to take a walk around. Turn a couple of lights on here, and so you can see that, you know, there's was a disc brake rear, and I had to go to the one from the yard, the 96, because they are different, and that's what I had to work with. So this is all about sort of backyard rebuilding. And you can see on this side here, I did manage to get it sprayed in the primer. This is the rusty metal primer. I did the hole underneath, and I think it looks pretty good. So, and it's just to get it clean. And I cleaned up yesterday. I cleaned up all these parts. I took some footage of that, and I sprayed last night, or just brushed it on. And this was just some crappy rusty metal primer that I had laying in a can. It was starting to curdle. And there's, I had soaked a bunch of brake rotors. These are the ones from the truck, black truck. And this one is, I'm going to just, I just cleaned it up a little bit. I hit it with a cookie on the grinder. And, you know, I didn't take much off just to get the rust off. This was soaked in acid for a while. And those were soaked in acid too, for a little bit longer. Those are from the 96. They're a little different. This is a single piston standard caliper on the 96, and these were the ones that I found on the black truck. They were pretty gnarly. They're in okay shape. Like I said, I threw them in a acid bath for a little while, and I just cleaned them up. I'm going to tape off the brake surface, and while I have out in my old DeVilbiss bottom feeder, while I have that out with some primer in it, rusty metal primer, I'm going to blow primer on this, and they'll stay nice. And the object of this is really backyard productions, really. Although I do this professionally, this is a truck that I got, 2 trucks I wound up with. It's a nice little backyard project. It's on the cheap. I like working with clean parts. That's why I'm doing it this way. and I like putting clean parts back on. I like having it clean. It's going to sit in the yard for a period of time. It's a backup truck for me. I want to keep it running as best I can, and something happens to my daily driver or my daughter's daily driver, I can take this vehicle and put it on the road, and I'll probably just put it on the road anyway. But I'll be cleaning it up over time. Still has a lot of rust issues. This was an upstate car. I would never do this car like this. It was too far gone, but I wound up with these things, and the way it happened. You know, I look at it like this. I have it. Okay? They're both here. So I do recommend doing things this way if you want a backyard project, a low buck project. You've got two vehicles you can pick parts and swap. You know, what better way to make an extra car or even just a daily driver? Because if you're taking all this stuff apart and you're putting it back together again, you have the opportunity to try. You can do it on the cheap, but you can try to do it right. You can at least have know that every primary bolt is turned, and you're all right. So this is a little bit bigger rotor than the other rotors that I showed you, and just a little bit. I didn't measure how much, but that's because they upgraded. 2 years later, they put 2 piston calipers on the front, and on the back there was I think a single piston, or was another 2 piston caliper. So it's got 4-wheel disc. Unfortunately, that rear end on the black truck rotted out so bad I was afraid to use it, so I took the 96 rear end out, and that has drums on the back, and I had to change the emergency brake cabling. And but you know what? I took the leaf springs from it. Everything was so rotted, I really didn't have a choice, and I didn't want to spend another $300 and something on another rear, plus everything else. So if this thing runs good, maybe in the future I'll put the correct rear back in. For now, when you have a parts truck in the yard and you got all those vehicles back there, and you got way more than you need right there, okay? That truck's got a beat motor. My daughter cooked it. It's got like 300-something thousand miles on it, but it's got a lot of parts, and unfortunately the body was in really nice shape. So I'm out of here. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to spray those rotors, and we'll be back at it. Alright, so I have this very nice, I don't know if you can see it. We'll zoom in a little bit. We'll try zooming in. I don't know if I can zoom in. So many things are going on here. This camera is all messed up. Let's see. I have rubber bands holding it together. And it is very much parallel. I know you really can't see that well, but so I'll describe it. So, dead flush. And you know what? If you eye it down and you're careful, you can make it flush, you can make it flat. Now, I'm going to drop the car down. It was really off, you know, like a couple of inches. It was like 2 inches, 1.5 inches. There's some new parts on here. So now that it's flat, I want it about a 1/16 in the front. Okay? So I did both sides. So I'm going to put my glasses on, but I'm going to take this 16th piece of metal, and I want to slip it underneath. Okay? And I'm going to do that very carefully, and if I can get the line to not move, alright, it's where I want it. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take this 1/16 piece of sheet metal here, and I'm going to go back over and I'm going to check them again, and I did both, make sure the lines are straight, and I'm going to take this piece of scrap metal here and just very carefully slip it underneath. And if it clears, then I'm good to go. And again, I want to toe in about a 1/16 to help it track. So it's a total of 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to toe it in just a little bit. So I should be able to adjust it for that. So that's what I'm going to do now, and then I'll be done. And I'm going to just put a little bit of paint on the areas that I didn't paint, clean up, put the tires on, and put this thing down on the ground. So that's the next step.